well, but had to deal with some junk. So we're gonna go through kind of a setup thing, which basically it helps you understand, better parts, and engines, not certain things that used to be in old ones that are not anymore, and also, not a bad build or setup. So it really all depends on what you're gonna, want to use. Is per okay, most people fit, AP so they can last longer in combat. Some suit mobility, some suit the hovering thing, as you've seen, but this one is basically just for AP in general. It's so and it basically packs basically a whole wallop. Right, so I can name it AP. It's basically a weapon of mass destruction. Okay, so basically the reason why I chose these bazookas, okay, is what a lot of people don't understand sometimes about these bazookas is sometimes, just because it has a high AP or an attack power, okay, an impact and whatnot, but you're losing rounds, okay, in essence to get this weapon, okay. Plus, not only that, it definitely does make it a lot more heavier. One of the aspects that a lot of people don't realize is, yes, it gives you, blast radius, so the cumulative impact is higher, but if you look at it, the reload time on this thing is 8.9 seconds. So you're almost waiting almost 10 seconds, 9 to 10 seconds between each shot. Okay, whereas the one I'm using, it does it every 4 seconds, so it's a little bit more quicker. All right, it's like half the time. Okay, and that's what a lot of people don't really understand when it comes to dueling is the real time you need to have in between, like shooting and whatnot and stuff like that. Okay, also the recoil is higher. Okay, and the direct hit adjustment is a lot lower. So therefore, you try to shoot it, its adjustment for that correction of what your enemy is trying to shoot, you're gonna miss it. Okay. Plus, the slow travel time and stuff like that. All right. So a lot of people also don't understand is the energy supply efficiency that's on the left hand side and everything else like that. But what a lot of people also don't understand is the like the quick boost times. Okay, the which is the quick boost, which is the QB. It's under your speed up there on the right. Says QB reload time. Okay, goes up. Okay, so your quick boost time basically for AC to move around, or it was basically like to jump, okay, or hop, all right, which is what you see me a lot of do in my lighter builds, okay, which we're gonna get to, all right, is a lot more higher. Okay, so the lower the of your quick boot, your quick load, your quick boost reload time, the better. Okay, so those are the things you have to look out for, not just how much power it has or how much impact or cumulative impact or anything of those really natures, because your build is be able to be sufficient enough in combat because of try to reload. Okay, so that is one of the things you need to watch out for. All right, so hence the reason why on this, it has a really good reload time, which is 2 seconds. Okay, which is its reload time. So every time I shoot, and then it takes 4.2 seconds to reload the freaking shot. Okay, the total rounds is 78, so it's a pretty a decent amount of ammunition. Okay, the effective range is 740 meters. All right, its recoil is 90 plus with the arms. You have the stability, which is actually kind of part of that. It's the same thing I'll explain with the arms and how that works with the guns and stuff like that here. As I go through the build. Okay, the direct hit adjustment is 158, so it's able to correct it a little bit more quick, easier on that. Right, the impact, and everything cumulative blast is good. Okay, so I look over at my quick load, for my quick boost reload time, it's 251 instead of 253. Okay, and that's more just like of what it does to help boost with your quick boost in general. Okay, so now we're just gonna go to let's see, check out this back weapon. Okay, the back weapon, the reason why I have this on here is to basically it's an immobilizer. Okay, not also that, it's a good stunner and stuff like that when it hits. Okay, the reason why I went with this grenade launcher is the reload time. Okay, because 12 seconds between reload time, yeah, it's gonna pack a bigger punch. Okay, but the direct hit adjustment is extremely low. So you'd have to be extreme to make sure you're extremely close when you use it, because if not, you're not going to hit your fucking uh player or the opponent or however you want to call it. This shoots off two at a time, so it has almost the same kinetic damage as what this thing would do. Okay, the only difference is yes, it does kind of have an adjusted impact, but that's also the reason why you get close with a tank. Okay, because a tank is supposed to take that damage because it has AP. All right, so that's the reason why in a lot of my shots, whatnot, you see me able to take out, a lot of people quickly with it is because I'm using it for what it's built for, which is basically it's a tank. So it's meant to get in there, take damage and give it back. Okay, so that's also the reason why I made this build. Okay, so when you go down like to, for example, the censoring and stuff like that of the adjustment of the head. Okay, this is where a lot of people do get confused with this sometimes, because a lot of people don't understand the attitude stability, especially newer players, and the system recovery and scan distance and effectiveness of duration sometimes, and those things can get a little complicated, especially to newer players, which also it'll interfere with your quick boost, reload times, and your general weight and stuff like that. So like I said, this is an AP build, so it has the highest AP out of all the heads so far. So one of the things that you also have to understand is that. Okay, so whenever you take a build or anything else like that, the attitude stability and the attitude recovery and all that other junk that you see on the side is very good to have, especially when dealing with FCSs, or used to be, all right, or chests. Okay, which all perform to your stability. Okay, which basically is how stable you can shoot while either being in the air, hence the whole point of attitude. Okay. So the system recovery is basically for those who are new. They have the thing where it shoots electricity, and if you notice, your ECS kind of starts getting like a little overcharge malfunction thing. When that happens, it basically becomes like it to where you can't target. Okay, and it's kind of like having a manual control. Okay, so it basically makes it to where your missiles are less effective and stuff like that. So that's also the reason why the little mounted stunner weapon is actually pretty useful. Okay, it brings a good hit. It does electronic interference damage when you start to build it up. So if you want like a stunning one and stuff like that, that's kind of the whole point about it. Okay, so when you go onto the chest, a lot of people don't understand some of these and stuff like that. So as again, the attitude stability adds to just that attitude stability of the whole body, which is the AC specs. That's the reason why you get the attitude stability of 250 2,521. And if you notice, if you adjust the body, it gives you different types. Okay, so that's how it accumulates. All right, so that also accumulates the also attitude, sometimes recovery of the actual mech itself. So therefore, if it gets shut down or whatever, it's overheated or whatever, all right, it adjusts and compensates. So for like when you skate and boost around and stuff like that. Wrapped out on me. All right, so what a lot of people understand is like the boost efficiency and stuff like that. A lot of people think it remains just to the booster itself. It does, and actually it doesn't. It also pertains to quick boost function and your overboost. Okay, so basically, if you actually do look over, okay, the chest I have on right now that I selected will drop my quick boost time to 2.02 seconds. Okay, so basically that's how long it's going to take to reload. So basically it's a very quick reload, so therefore you're able to move around a lot quicker. Okay, now then the quick boost consumption, everything else like that is a lot more higher, even though it's a lower. Blue is always better than red. Okay, so the consumption will be a lot lower. Okay, so that is another thing you have to understand, same as the energy recharge delay, which would be also constant to your generator. All right, we'll get to that a little later, and you'll kind of see how it all functions together. Okay, so onto the arms. It's kind of the same principle as what it would be the chest and the head, except in this you have basically they added a new thing, which is a melee specialization and firearm specialization. Now, a lot of people actually don't notice this sometimes, but believe it or not, those are very critical. Reason why the firearm specialization, melee specialization, is basically how well the arms can target the other MC while you're in combat. So if you notice that that I originally had 89, now it has 90 for its target tracking ability under the AC specs. Okay, so the general purpose of this is basically it's going to be for how well your arms target with your FCS, which is your targeting computer, and the generalization of on how well it can basically either be in front or behind the target when it's tracking it. So if you're using like a grenade launcher or whatever, and you're using a close quarters combat, which is what this one's using as an FCS, which is, up close and personal. So therefore the acquisition or the targeting tracking that it has, kind of think of like a tank, so it aim before the target rather than behind it or just in front of it. Okay, so its tracking is better. Okay, so your arms will be able to rotate a lot more efficiently. Okay, and it can follow the target with its arms a lot more better. So it's the same kind of thing. Now, then, how it goes for melee specializations is if you actually do take an MC and try to go and fight with it, you'll notice that you won't do as much damage with this one as you will full melee specialization. Basically, your hits won't hit as hard. Okay, so basically that's what that basically in contour means, no more different than the firearm specialization in, you know, a firearm. So it able is to track a lot better. Now then, basically, the trade-off is you want to hit for the same amount as you want to track. Okay, so sometimes in a melee combat, which would be like with a blade or even fists, or I'm kind of guessing your feet, would promote the same generalization of that kind of aspect of being able to melee specialize. I don't know if they're going to come out with any tunings for these things, but it would be nice. Okay, now tuning back in the day, you could actually take this. You see where you have the load limit and the total load, the arms load limit, the total arms load. Energy output. It even had a thing for cooling and whatnot. You could even adjust your FCSs to where you can add more either into the tracking ability or the multi-lock system. Or it could do better at a certain range, or you can boost that one to a certain range, or stuff like that. You could add stuff to the actual parts themselves. You could add AP points. You could add like for example legs. You can add the sting action to where they turn better, give them a better turn rate, better jump distance, or a better jump height. You could toy around with them, give them a better kinetic defense, and or better energy fence or better, explosive defense. Those were things we could tune, give it less weight or weight it could carry, but less of an energy load, stuff like that. We could, technically kind of more fine tune we liked, which was actually kind of neat. And they don't have that in this one. It'd be nice. Maybe they'll bring out a patch for it. I don't know, but it would be nice. Okay, to where you can, fine tune, your AC. Okay, now the thing about it is a lot of people and sometimes about these things is basically the quick boost times. Okay, so for the chest, quick boost time for this is the reload time is 2.02 seconds. Okay, so that's basically for the whole body itself. Okay, so believe it or not, the higher, technically the lower you have the number, the quicker it is. Okay. So you also have to understand, how much energy you use. So if you want to do it quite a bit, you need a good energy use with a good reload time. So a very quick time with a very substantial non-energy draining pair of legs. Okay. So, that's what you have to look for is those things. You also have to look attitude recovery. Attitude recovery is basically on how well it can go from the ground to the air and back to the ground. And so if it can make a good adjustment to that, then you're more fluid in that motion. Okay, now when it regards to the boosters, okay, depending on the booster is going to be depending on either quick boost, and that is quite literally on how quickly it can use all of its jets. Okay, so basically this is what it comes down to. So the quicker the reload time, the quicker it can boost. Okay. So when you're looking at the reload time of your quick boost, okay, a lot of people do not really look at these all too well. Okay, you cannot get these on a pair of tank legs, so it's one of those things. We'll get to that in a minute. So for the FCSs, as I said, you have close range assists, you have mid range assists, and long range assists in the multi lock system. And most of y'all, I'm pretty sure, have already played with some of this. Okay, so it also gives you the same thing as the quick boost times, quick reload, you know, quick reload time, and that can even knock it down even more. Okay, so when you're trying to build a fast mech, every little things help, especially when you're trying to hop around. Okay, so this is one of the things that a lot of people sometimes don't notice. Okay, so when you're dealing with this is one of those things you watch and operate because it can sometimes even affect your quick boost times. Okay, and a lot of people do use quick boost in this game. You'll see me use it a lot. Okay, and that is a very useful function because it helps you avoid and dodge missile incoming attacks, uh, slashes, almost everything and anything. Okay, and depending on how you build it, you can get some pretty good air time without actually having four legs to hover. So it all depends on how you make your build. This is why I'm kind of going for people who quite sometimes don't understand this stuff. So, and a lot of people don't understand when it comes to the generators, the same with the core. This is where the energy output comes. But just because you might have a large generator, okay, like this one here, okay, it's the full output. Okay, it gives me 4,400, in max energy output. But the thing about it is if I change on here, because if you see the generator output adjustment, okay, it will actually start to change the energy bar itself, where you actually see current load. And that is something you want to keep up pretty high because that actually gives you, hovering, light ability, you know, stuff like that. So, keeping an eye on having a full energy load, gauge or having to energy load is low, then that'll give you more boosting capability. Okay, because it keeps your output high and your consumption low, and that's what you want, especially to make a dasher or someone who can sustain a very long period of flight. Okay, so when it comes to that, it really all depends on what you want to go with. Okay, so like I said, this is, I use this thing a lot even throughout my missions and stuff like that, just because it's it's an AC. It's got a lot of AP, and it's got some, guns to bear the brunt. Okay, so it's a very up close and in your face AC. So, and that's what I use it for. I use it for what the type is. So that is one also the things you got to play it for. It's the type of AC you're building. Okay, so that's one of the things you definitely have to watch out for because being at a distance, you can shot. Okay, so that's why when getting around tanks and tank legs and stuff like that, when built right, can be a very devastating thing, even with itself, especially if you know how to use the AC. So hence the point. So now we're gonna look at just building an AC for general. Okay, and we'll just go with some decent legs here. So I know these are pretty, for and you'll notice that the current load of the legs with the arms and everything else like that, I'm gonna have to make a lot lighter. So, and the reason why I choose these arms a lot is because if you know anything about armor, definitely want um an AC that can fight. Okay, because you won't might run out of ammunition. You never know. Okay, so having that blade is there is very helpful to punch with, and if you're going to be able to punch with some force, then what being up close? Okay, because then you're going to be very dependent on that blade. You can't actually really kind of mix it up. Okay, now then, believe it or not, you can pull a combo in here. It's really kind of how to do it, but it does work. Okay, and the reason why I choose this kind of setup is because it actually performs really well. It does very good under, kind of a PvP standpoint, at least in my. So the reason why I put on this is for basically weight and energy draw, and it's a shield. So it does come in handy because it does help you take less damage. blade, I'm gonna go. So we need to change a gun. Looking at something that falls under the arrow to it. Because as far as I know, technically you can go in, but slow. I can go with the needle gun. The needle gun is actually, it is pretty useful. It does stun pretty well. So this is a pretty good setup. So, yeah, the booster. Alright, so this is the thing with the booster. See the quick boost reload time, 58 seconds, 90 seconds, 50 seconds, whatever. So, some of them can be up to a minute, some can be, and that can cost you, especially in the heat of battle. So that's one of the things I'm going to go with is a quick boost time. Right, so let's say for example, 91. Okay, so that's almost like what? Minute and 30 seconds? Okay, so we'll go with that. Put on combat 1 of the FCS. Generator keep the same. Okay, so yes, maybe we're in. Okay, pass my little one. See if we can take it on a test run. Able to. So the whole, as you can see, it doesn't much hop around for a while. Once it takes that long, into 6 jumps out of it. Okay. So, but here's the difficulty in this, okay? Do you see how long it takes to boost? Okay, so that can be a problem because there is a gap in the jump, especially if you're trying to move quickly. Okay. You see in here for kind of, good example of what I mean. My auto targeter. So, alright, so I can leap, do this. Okay. Now I can slash at him. Okay. But there's the problem. Okay. So, it is pretty easy to invert them out. Alright, that's basically what it's good for. Okay, it's because once they're input out, they're very easy to slash hit. Okay, but here's the problem with this weapon. Okay, is this weapon can be very inconsistent, alright, because you would have to, catch him on it. Alright, so let's say, for example, if you're far away, okay, there's always the suspicion of him dodging the blade. Okay, so this is why sometimes it's not good to have one of these, but it is at least good to have one in your team, okay, because, a long blade like this that has a, range is not always going to be effective. Okay, so that's something you got to look out for. Alright, it's one of a very, classic, armored core. Alright, so we're going to change this up to where I'll show you, a little bit more what I like. So this is one of the best things to do. That is basically change it. Why that is because, 0.0 of a second, so it's going to be a lot quicker. See, I can literally just keep pressing it and it goes. But there's really no, gap in between each boost control. Okay, so I can hop around pretty quickly, right? So, I can actually have a pretty stable guard without really having to do much and still be able to, how we say, control the flow of battle because of how characters set up. So there is one aspect that some people just really don't get, and that's why sometimes you'll see in some of the videos that they'll kind of start going after me and ganging up on me is because of the ability to do this. Okay, which some players don't like. They do find it to be kind of a cheating aspect most times, which I kind of really don't get. It's not cheating; it just happens to be how the game is. All right, but see, the whole problem in this is I can't multiply, to use it. So once it starts heating up, it makes it a really bad thing. So this is why I displayed. Yes, it may be a little bit, you know, closer, but that's kind of the whole of the blade. And believe it or not, it doesn't, how we say, really chew up so much energy. Okay, so it is a very close quarters blade. Kind of do have to get up in their face a little bit, but I mean that's the whole point of doing melee combat. So, the whole point in that is just being able to do as much damage in a close proximity as possible, and having the mobility at your advantage to use it. That's what I find to be pretty effective. Doesn't always work, especially if you don't have a good team, but I do find it. So when you're building an AC, sometimes it's not always about AP, right? It's about the mix of weapons compared to what you put on it, compared to what you want to do with it is going to be your role. So that's one of the things you have to be considerate of when you do it. So a lot of people don't think about that when taking a mission AC compared to a non-mission AC is because you're doing a mission, you're not dealing with another player. So that's some of my advice. So you might have something different. You might to build one just energy use. I mean that's the whole the arms and specify to just energy weapons and stuff like that. The same you can have them energy output pump out energy for a weapon, and that's kind of endeavor behind this, and some people just don't always understand it. So that's the whole thing. So if your arms ain't good enough to track the target, then what's the good of actually having it unless you're up close, within the range you're supposed to be. So some few key things you need to watch out for, but it is very helpful. So that in yeah, understanding how an AC is built. So next video that's going to be coming up here shortly. Enjoy the day.